Picture this. You sit down at the dinner table, plates clinking, silverware scraping, the faint smell of comfort food in the air. To outsiders it looks warm, ordinary, even loving. But beneath the surface, something darker brews. The dinner table isn't just where food is served. For some families, it's where psychological battles are waged. Imagine reaching for a story you want to share, only to be cut down with a smirk. That never happened. Or laughing nervously at a jab disguised as a joke, wondering if you're being too sensitive. A parent corrects you on details you're sure you remember. A sibling shakes their head, mocking your memory. And suddenly you doubt yourself. You question your reality. This isn't just family banter, it's gaslighting, subtle, calculated manipulation meant to destabilize your sense of truth. And when it happens around the dinner table, it's more than words. It's ritualized warfare. So, what if your family meal wasn't nourishing you but draining you? What if the very place meant for connection was being weaponized against you? Tonight, we're going to peel back the layers and expose how dinner table gaslighting works and why its damage runs far deeper than most ever realize. Before we dive deeper, let's get clear on what gaslighting really is. The term comes from the 1944 film Gaslight, where a manipulative husband dims the lights in the house, then denies it when his wife notices. Slowly, she begins to doubt her own senses, her memory, even her sanity. That's the essence of gaslighting, the deliberate erosion of someone's confidence in their own perception of reality. But in everyday life, gaslighting doesn't usually involve flickering lamps. It's far more subtle. It's when someone says, "You're imagining things," or when you call out a hurtful comment and they reply, "You're too sensitive." It's being told an event never happened, even though you were there. Gaslighting works because it's insidious. It doesn't always look like open hostility. Sometimes it's wrapped in humor, denial, or even concern. And why is the dinner table such a fertile ground for this? Because it's a ritual. Families gather there daily, often with unspoken rules about respect, hierarchy, and silence. It's a place where conversations are supposed to flow freely. But in toxic dynamics, that very ritual becomes a stage for control. At the table, the gaslighter has an audience. They can twist stories, deny truths, and chip away at someone's reality, all while others look on. It's not just manipulation, it's performance. And for the victim, it's an invisible trap. To fight back risks being labeled disrespectful, while staying silent means surrendering to the distortion. Why is it that the dinner table, of all places, becomes such a common stage for psychological warfare? To understand this, we need to look at what the table represents. Across cultures, meals are more than just nutrition. They are rituals. Rituals bind families together, reinforce roles, and communicate unspoken rules about who holds authority. At the head of the table often sits a parent or authority figure who serves the food, who speaks first, who interrupts whom. All of these small, seemingly innocent details reinforce hierarchy. The table isn't neutral. It is a symbol of power, and in unhealthy families, it becomes a tool for control. Food itself is loaded with meaning. Offering, withholding, or criticizing it becomes symbolic, an indirect way to affirm dominance or diminish another person. Compliments, or lack thereof, can sting more than arguments. The meal, meant to nurture, can instead become a weapon. Conversations around the table are equally ritualized. Everyone is expected to share, listen, or at least endure the exchange. This gives the gaslighter perfect cover. They can challenge memories, deny experiences, or mock someone publicly while hiding behind the excuse of, we're just talking over dinner. The group setting adds pressure. To speak up risks disrupting the ritual. To stay silent allows the manipulation to stand. That's why gaslighting thrives here. The dinner table isn't just a place to eat. It's a stage where authority, belonging, and identity are constantly negotiated. And when a manipulator seizes that stage, the damage extends far beyond a single meal. It reshapes how family members see themselves, their relationships, and their reality itself. Gaslighting at the dinner table rarely comes in the form of open warfare. It's not a shouted argument or a dramatic confrontation. It's death by 1,000 cuts. The tactics are small, almost invisible, but designed to destabilize and disarm. Let's break down the manipulator's playbook. First, denial of memory. One of the most common moves is outright denial. You never said that. Or, that never happened. Even if you know you did or it did, the statement forces you into defense. Do you push back and risk being branded argumentative, or do you swallow the doubt? Either way, the gaslighter wins. 2. Minimization of feelings. When someone brings up a slight, the gaslighter waves it away. You're too sensitive, or it was just a joke. By reframing cruelty as humor, they place the blame on the victim for feeling hurt. 3. Twisting the narrative. Maybe you recall an event one way, but the gaslighter retells it with themselves as the reasonable hero and you as overreacting. In front of others, this version often sticks. Over time, you begin to doubt your own recollection. 4. Mockery and sarcasm. Laughter becomes a weapon. A smirk, a sarcastic comment, an eye roll. These subtle gestures send the message that your perspective is ridiculous. Because it's framed as humor, calling it out feels petty. 5. Strategic silence. Sometimes the cruelest tactic is no words at all. A pointed silence after you speak, followed by a change of subject, can feel like erasure. The message is clear. Your voice doesn't matter here. 6. Group collusion. Gaslighters thrive when they recruit allies. A sibling snickers on cue. A parent nods. Suddenly it's not one against one. It's you against the table. This triangulation magnifies isolation. The brilliance and the horror of these tactics is that they blend seamlessly into dinner conversation. Outsiders might see only family banter, but for the target, each meal becomes a performance where their reality is slowly stripped away. Gaslighting at the table isn't about winning arguments, it's about control, and every denial, every smirk, every silence chips away at certainty until the victim begins to wonder, is it them or is it me? What makes dinner table gaslighting so destructive isn't just the words spoken, it's the psychological aftermath. When someone is repeatedly told their memories are wrong, their feelings exaggerated, or their reality invalid, the damage lingers long after the plates are cleared. The first and most immediate impact is self-doubt. Victims begin second-guessing everything they remember or feel. If enough denials are piled on, the mind starts to whisper, maybe they're right, maybe I'm imagining things. This creeping uncertainty weakens confidence and makes the person easier to manipulate the next time. Then comes cognitive dissonance. At the table, a victim may laugh along, pretending everything is fine, while inside they feel confusion, anger, or shame. This split between external performance and internal chaos creates mental exhaustion. Over time, it teaches victims to mask their true selves, prioritizing survival over authenticity. The emotional toll is profound. Anxiety builds before meals because dinner isn't nourishment, it's battle. Victims may develop hypervigilance, scanning for the next jab or denial. Depression often follows, as the person internalizes the idea that their voice, memories or emotions simply don't matter. Perhaps the most corrosive impact is long-term, a distorted sense of reality. When gaslighting is chronic, especially from childhood, it warps how victims interpret the world. Trust becomes fragile, relationships feel unsafe. Even in adulthood, survivors of dinner table gaslighting may find themselves doubting partners, colleagues or friends, always bracing for the next twist of the truth. Gaslighting isn't just manipulation, it's psychological sabotage. And when it happens in what should be the safest of spaces, a family meal, it leaves scars that can last a lifetime. Gaslighting at the dinner table doesn't emerge out of nowhere. It's often rooted in the larger dynamics of the family system, patterns of authority, rivalry, and unresolved trauma that play out night after night. For parents, gaslighting can be a way to maintain control. In households where authority is absolute, challenging a parent's memory or judgment can be seen as disrespect. If a child recalls events differently, the parent may deny it, not necessarily because they've forgotten, but because admitting error threatens their authority. By twisting reality, they preserve their role as the unquestionable figure at the head of the table. Sometimes, gaslighting is intergenerational. Parents who were undermined or silenced in their own childhood may unconsciously repeat the same tactics, passing psychological manipulation down like a family heirloom. Control becomes a learned language. For siblings, gaslighting often stems from rivalry or the struggle for validation. One sibling may form an alliance with a parent, using denial, mockery, or exaggeration to make another sibling appear unreliable. The scapegoat child is frequently gaslit, told they are too dramatic or always wrong, while the favored sibling gains power and protection. At the heart of these dynamics is triangulation. Gaslighters recruit allies, parents against children, siblings against siblings, creating shifting coalitions that isolate the victim. This not only enforces hierarchy, but also keeps the family system locked in conflict, preventing genuine connection. The tragic irony is that meals, meant to be moments of unity, become battlegrounds where dominance is reinforced. Parents gaslight to retain control, siblings gaslight to climb the family ladder, and the victim, caught in the middle, learns that even the most ordinary conversations can't be trusted. To truly understand how gaslighting plays out at the dinner table, let's walk through a few scenarios. These aren't pulled from any one family, but they mirror situations that countless people have lived. Case 1. The parent's rewrite. A teenager nervously shares a story about winning praise from a teacher. Instead of celebrating, the parent interrupts, "That's not how it happened. Your teacher was just being nice." The room goes quiet. The teen's pride curdles into embarrassment. A moment of accomplishment is stolen, replaced with doubt. Case 2. The sibling alliance. At another table, a younger sibling insists, "You promised you'd help me with homework yesterday." Before the parent can respond, the older sibling laughs, "No, they didn't. You're making that up." The parent chuckles along. Suddenly, the younger sibling feels like the outsider, painted as unreliable while the sibling strengthens their bond with the parent. Case 3. The silent erasure. A daughter brings up an uncomfortable memory. "Remember last weekend when you yelled at me?" The father responds with silence, then moves on to a different topic. The message is chilling, her voice carries no weight, her experience doesn't exist. Each of these scenarios shows how ordinary dinner conversations can become psychological traps. The victim leaves the table not only hungry for validation, but also questioning their reality. These aren't dramatic battles. They're quiet edits of truth, staged in plain sight. The presence of outsiders at the dinner table changes the entire performance. When friends, partners, or distant relatives are present, the gaslighter often shifts tactics. Direct denial or cruelty may soften into sarcasm, subtle digs, or carefully timed jokes that appear harmless to guests, but land like daggers for the victim. This is where gaslighting becomes theatre. The gaslighter crafts an image of normality, positioning themselves as charming, witty, or playful, while the victim is cast as overly sensitive or humorless. If the target reacts defensively, they risk appearing unstable in front of others, further reinforcing the manipulator's narrative. Sometimes, the presence of outsiders emboldens the gaslighter even more. With an audience to impress, they may exaggerate stories, distort past events, or mock the victim openly, knowing full well that the victim's protests will be drowned out by laughter or disbelief. For the victim, these meals are especially isolating. Not only is their reality denied, but now their pain is invisible to the very people who could confirm it. Outsiders leave the table believing they've witnessed harmless family banter, while the victim leaves with the sting of betrayal, their suffering hidden in plain sight. Gaslighting thrives on subtlety, which is why the first step in breaking the cycle is simply learning to spot it. Most victims don't realize what's happening until the pattern has repeated for years. Recognition is power. Some of the most common red flags include being told you're too sensitive whenever you express discomfort, hearing "that never happened" about events you vividly remember, jokes that cut too deep followed by "relax, it was just a joke," feeling anxious before family meals as if you're stepping into enemy territory, leaving the table more confused than when you sat down. Pay attention to the emotional residue after dinner. Do you feel drained, small, or invisible? Do you find yourself replaying conversations, questioning your memory or your feelings? That unease is not accidental. It's the intended outcome of gaslighting. Another subtle cue is the presence of alliances, siblings or parents who quickly back up the gaslighter's version of events, making you doubt yourself further. When you notice these patterns, it's not just conflict, it's manipulation. The key is awareness. Once you start labeling these behaviors for what they are, the spell begins to break. When gaslighting happens at the dinner table, fighting back head-on isn't always safe or effective. The goal isn't to win an argument, it's to protect your sense of reality. Survival starts with strategy. 1. Ground yourself. When a denial or distortion hits, take a silent pause. Notice your breath, plant your feet on the floor and remind yourself, what I experienced is real. This small act prevents the gaslighter from rewriting your truth in the moment. 2. Limit engagement. Not every comment deserves a counterattack. Sometimes the most powerful move is disengagement, redirecting the conversation, or responding with calm neutrality. Refusing to fuel the gaslighter's performance denies them the reaction they crave. 3. Use mental anchors. Keep private records, journals, notes, even mental logs, of what actually happened. Later, when doubt creeps in, you'll have proof for yourself that your memory is sound. 4. Set small boundaries. Boundaries don't always mean dramatic confrontations. They can be subtle, ending a conversation early, excusing yourself from the table, or calmly saying, "I remember it differently." These small stands protect your integrity without escalating conflict. 5. Build external validation. Share your experiences with trusted friends, mentors, or therapists who can reaffirm your reality. Gaslighting loses much of its power when you have outside voices confirming your truth. Surviving dinner table warfare isn't about silencing the gaslighter. It's about fortifying yourself. Each boundary, each anchor, each act of self-trust reclaims the ground they've tried to take from you. The dinner table, on the surface, it's a symbol of comfort, a place where families are supposed to laugh, share stories and bond over food. But for many, it's not a sanctuary at all. It's a war zone, not with weapons or fists, but with words, silence and denial. When gaslighting seeps into these rituals, every meal becomes a battle for reality. A smile hides the sting of mockery. A laugh covers the ache of being dismissed. And the person most in need of nourishment leaves the table emptier than when they sat down. That's the cruelest part of dinner table gaslighting. It poisons what should be safe. But here's the truth. Naming the war is the first step to ending it. Once you can spot the tactics, once you see the battlefield for what it is, the power dynamic begins to shift. The gaslighter thrives in shadows, in denial, in confusion. Awareness drags their strategy into the light. So tonight, I'll leave you with this thought. Sometimes the most dangerous wars aren't fought on distant fields, but across porcelain plates and flickering candles. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. Many have sat at tables just like yours, and many have found ways to reclaim their truth. If this resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of dark psychology. And remember, even at the dinner table, you have the right to your reality. Grateful you joined me today. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself.